Let's put the Pittsburgh Panthers season in 2023 in two different ways. First, let's put it in the very blunt way. It was a disaster. Let's put it in the not so blunt way. There were some injuries. There were a lot of things that happened surrounding this Pitt program, and it just seemed like everything went wrong for this team last season. However, 2024, they are turning over a new leaf, and they are expected to be better than they were last season. But is it better enough to get back into a bowl game and maybe even cause some ACC chaos? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? Here in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. I want to welcome you to my channel and welcome you to prediction season. Whether it's the first video of mine or you've watched all of them up to this point, thank you for watching my videos to help support my channel in more ways you can even imagine. And if I haven't done your favorite team yet, well, don't worry. I'm doing all 134, so I will eventually hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. Again, thank you for watching my video. Watch all of them if you can, or watch as many as you want, but you can interact with the channel in any way to help support it, liking, commenting, sharing. Whatever you do, I will greatly appreciate. Let's talk about the Panthers here in 2024, but I got to tell you how we're going to do it first. We're going to take a deep dive into the team's offense, into the defense, and at the end of the video, we'll go through the Panther football schedule, and we'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. But I do have a couple more things before we do start, because right over here are going to be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And of course, dear viewer, for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. So with no further delay, we'll talk about the Panther offense. And again, from 2023, it just seemed like everything went wrong. Phil Jurkovec had some injury problems again last season, and all in all, when he played, well, he had some good moments, but overall didn't play up to some of the expectation that Pitt Panther fans had for him. 818 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks on just over 50% completion percentage. He's run out of eligibility, while Christian Veilleux, the leading passer from last season, has left through the transfer portal. He has found himself a new home with the Georgia State Panthers. So he's transferring from one Panther program to another Panther program. He had 1,179 yards, 7 touchdowns, but 8 interceptions last season on 51% complete percentage. Good news is, though, in terms of volume, in terms of efficiency, in terms of quarterback passer rating, in terms of touchdown to interception number, you do get your leader in pretty much all those categories back. Nate Yarnell last season had 595 yards on 62 passes. That was 9.6 yards per completion on 66% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns to only 1 pick, and a passer rating of 164.8, which was over 40 points higher than that of Phil Jurkovec, who had the second highest passer rating on the team last year. With a full starting season under his belt, Nate Yarnell could very well be a player that could help elevate this Pitt Panther offense from what it was in 2023 to what it could be, and it could be really, really good in 2024. You also, however, could see Eli Holstein win that starting job, and that would not surprise me at all. He is coming over from the Alabama Crimson Tide. In my opinion, it should be Nate Yarnell that starts. I think he showed a lot with this Panther program last season to be able to win that starting job, but again, I do believe that Yarnell and Holstein will sort of battle it out here up until the season start. If you want my personal opinion, I would go with Yarnell just based off what he showed with the program last year. But again, my opinion is not going to supersede that of the head coach, Pat Narduzzi's. Whoever is better will get that day one starter. Let's take a look now at the skill position room for the the skill position rooms, I should say, for the Panthers here in 2024. You got to take a look at the running back room first. Well, you are going to be losing Sibo Flemister out of this room. The second leading rusher last year, just shy of 100 carries, had 600, or not 600, my apologies, I'm flipping some numbers around, 367 yards and 2 touchdowns last season. Pretty much the only notable loss in this running back room, so you do get Rodney Hammond back, a guy who had a disappointing season in 2023. A lot of people expected more of him, but again, did make some career highs. A career high in yards last season with 547 yards, did have 4 touchdowns last season, which actually was a career low because had 5 rushing touchdowns in both 2021 and 2022. Look, if he can develop and he can improve from last season, he's going to be a really good running back for this team. But you also do get Daniel Carter and Derek Davis back, while Desmond Reed is a transfer coming into this program. He is over from Western Carolina, could play some big minutes in this running back room. Wide receiver room, Bub Means, you lose him to the NFL. Leading receiver for the Panthers last season had 721 yards and 6 touchdowns, so you lose a very valuable asset to the pass catching room. Israel Polk is going to be gone through the transfer portal. Only 1 catch for him last year. Again, more of a depth piece than anything, but you also do lose some pretty valuable tight ends as well. Malcolm Epps was a very talented player that now went off to the NFL. Pitt loves to utilize their tight ends. But Epps only had 9 catches for 115 yards last season. But you do lose Carter Johnson through the transfer portal. He had 12 catches for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns, but neither of them were the leading receiver among tight ends. We'll get there when we talk about the tight end room. We got to talk about the wide receiver room first. Kanata Mumpfield is back. The former Akron transfer is looking to elevate himself to be that number 1 target for Pitt this upcoming season. He was the second leading receiver last year, but led the team in receptions with 44 of them at 576 yards and 5 touchdowns. So, hey, he's probably going to end up getting, again, that number 1 target sort of reps and role here in 2024. Dejon Reynolds does come back, very valuable asset to this wide receiver team last year, and Kenny Johnson also returns. While again, you get some pieces coming over from the portal. Raphael Williams is coming over from San Diego State, and then you also get Sincere Lee, hopefully I'm saying that first name right, coming over, I believe, from a community college JUCO level player there as well. Tight end room, though, again, I mentioned that neither Epps or Johnson was the leader in that room. That was Gavin Bartholomew, was the 3rd leading receiver on the team last year and should be the featured tight end in 2024. Jake Renda comes back while you get Jake Overman, who's an Oregon State transfer, coming into this program. And on the offensive line, you do lose a lot of talent here. Matt Goncalves and Jake Cradle are both gone to the NFL. Blake Zubovic and Trey Anderson have also both left due to varying reasons. Zubovic due to graduation and Anderson through the portal. So your offensive line should look a little something like this. Branson Taylor, Ryan Jacoby, BJ Williams, Ryan Baer, Terrence Moore, and Lyndon Cooper, who comes in through the transfer portal. Those 6 guys should make up your starting offensive line. Again, I think Nate Yarnell is going to end up getting that start here. Would it surprise me if it's Holstein? No, not one bit. But I think Yarnell has shown enough throughout this program. And look, there's no way this offense doesn't take a step up from last season. I mean, 317 yards is just not great. They couldn't run the football with consistency. They couldn't pass the football with consistency. And a lot of that bad luck that plagued this team last year will change here in 2024. Let's take a look at the defense for the Panthers. And while it definitely had some okay moments last year, and actually for the most part, the secondary did a pretty decent job. They were pretty decent here on 3rd down. They lose a ton of talent, especially on the defensive line. One guy leaves through the NFL, and that is Tyler Bentley. Last season, 27 tackles and had half a sack last year, but you lose even more guys through the transfer portal. Dion Hayes is going to be gone. Hayes last year, 45 tackles and 4 sacks last season. He was one of the sack leaders on this team. I believe that the 4 sack number put him at 2nd on the leaderboard. There were 2 guys tied for 1st. We'll talk about them when I mention their names. But Samuel Okunlola, actually we'll mention one of the names right now, was one of them. He goes off to transfer to a high-profile program that's going to look to compete for a national title there. He is going, or no, my apologies. I was flipping some things around. Samuel Okunlola is transferring over to Colorado. So, again, a pretty interesting situation. He goes in there while DeAndre Jules goes over to South Carolina. Man, I was thinking about the completely wrong position grouping there even. So you go ahead and take a look at what leaves through graduation now. David Green and Devin Danielson both leave due to graduation. Again, apologies for that mix-up there. My thoughts got scrambled. Let's take a look at what comes back on the defensive line. Bam Brema, Nate Temple, Jimmy Scott, Nakai Johnson, Sean Fitzsimmons, and Elliott Donald all return to this defense, while you actually do get in some pretty solid players through the transfer portal. You do bring in Nate Matlack. He is going to come over from Kansas State. You do get Nick James coming into the program from Indiana, and a couple more guys that I feel like I should mention. Anthony Johnson comes over from Illinois. Chief Borders as an edge rusher comes over from Nebraska, but it doesn't just stop there either. Some freshmen might be playing some big minutes here in this defensive line / pass rushing room. Sincere Edwards and Francis Brewu, and hopefully I'm saying that last name correctly, come into this program. Shane Simon is going to be gone out of the linebacking room. He is off to the NFL. He was the other guy that had 5 sacks for the team last year, while also being a top 10 tackler. You also do lose some guys through the transfer portal, and Solomon DeShields and Bengali Kamara. two very solid players for this team last year, two top 4 tacklers. In fact, they were their 2 leading tacklers among linebackers last season. Kamara has gone over to South Carolina, while DeShields goes over to Texas A&M. So that's a team that, again, might be in a sort of pretty good picture there to, if they can surprise, make a run to the college football playoff spot. So let's talk about the linebacker room here in 2024. Brandon George comes back. He was the team's 5th leading tackler last year, as a leading returning tackler among linebackers, had 50 of them last season. And then a lot of depth comes back. Braylon Lovelace, Rasheem Biles, Kyle Lewis, and Jordan Bass all return, while Kie Thompson is an Ohio transfer that enters this room. Defensive back room, let's talk about it. MJ Devonshire and AJ Woods, 2 very, very good corners for the Pittsburgh Panthers over the past couple of seasons. They both will be leaving to go find homes for new programs. Devonshire was the feature in this defensive back room. 10 passes defended, 4 interceptions, 32 tackles last season. The pass defended interception numbers led the team. Oh, and AJ Woods last year, yeah, he wasn't too bad either. 30 tackles, 2 sacks, 3 pass defended, 1 interception. That's a pretty good stat line to me. And you do lose another guy in Marquise Williams, who is going to be leaving due to graduation. He has run out of eligibility, and Williams last year, 26 tackles for 3 sacks. So you lose some really good talent out of the cornerback room, and then you do lose Stephon Hall as well out of this safety room. Another very talented player in his own right, but he has entered through the transfer portal. Just didn't get as big a role on this team as he would have liked. So the defensive back room coming back, let's talk about it. Rylan Gandy does come back in this defensive back room to play corner for this team, but cornerback room, especially with Devonshire, Woods, Williams all gone, it was left a little thin. So they dove on into the transfer portal and got some guys here. Jeremiah Anglin played some more safety at Kentucky, but he's going to be switching, at least according to ourlads.com, to play corner for this team. He, again, is coming over from Kentucky, while Timon Lynam is a true corner transfer, again coming over from Nebraska. And in the safety room, Donovan McMillan is coming back, as well as Javon McIntyre. Hey, they were your 2 leading tacklers last year, 105 for McMillan, what should be an O, not an A. Apologies for that typo. And McIntyre last year with 85 tackles, you tack on 7 pass defended in there as well. Phillip O'Brien and Cruz Brookins also return. And kickers are people too. You return both your punter and kicker from last year. Caleb Junko back to do the punting duties, and Ben Sauls coming back to do the kicking duties. So overall, talking about this defense here, it loses a lot of really good talent. But this is a defense that I feel like has a lot of good potential, especially if some of these portal pieces, and especially the freshmen on the defensive line, can gel well and fill in roles, and some of the depth guys prove to play well in their spots to where they're going to get more playing time this season. Hey, this is a Pitt defense that definitely could be pretty solid in 2024. It was last season. Maybe gave up a little too many points, gave up a little too many rushing yards. I'd like to see those numbers cut down, but everything else, I mean, Pitt's got some solid pieces here defensively entering 2024. Let's talk about the Panthers' schedule now, if my slide would change. But while it does that, hey, there it goes. Any game at home will be underlined, while any game on the road is in italics. That's that slanted text. Any game you see in green is going to be a game that I think the Panthers are going to win easily. Any game in yellow will be a close competitive game, but I still see Pitt being able to win it. And red is any game that I see Pitt coming away with a loss. Well, it doesn't start out with a loss right away, because I think you beat the Kent State Golden Flashes, a team out of the MAC that just didn't have a great season last year, and this program sort of fell apart once Sean Lewis left. I don't expect them to be that great in 2024. That should be a win for the Pittsburgh Panthers. But then you have 2 non-conference games coming up here against Big 12 opponents. You have to go on the road to play Cincinnati, and then you get to come back home in the backyard brawl to play the West Virginia Mountaineers. And I think you split these games. I think you win at least one of them, but I'm predicting it in a way that people might not expect me to. You'd probably say, well, they lose to West Virginia and beat Cincinnati. I have it the opposite way around. I think they lose to the Cincinnati Bearcats. Now, I know Cincinnati struggled in their Big 12 debut last season, but this is a Cincinnati team that, even though I still feel like they need a little bit of development under Scott Satterfield, I think going on the road here, and whether Yarnell or Holstein or whoever else happens to start at quarterback, and some of these pieces just need a little bit of time to gel, I think going on the road to play in a Nippert Stadium environment that probably isn't as hostile as it was all the way back in 2021 and 2019, back when Luke Fickell was there, and that team was really competing. They again, making the college football playoff all the way back in 2021. they still got some really good pieces, got some good wide receiver transfers coming in, some really good defensive transfers coming in. Brendan Sorsby's coming over to play quarterback for that team. Cincinnati's got a lot of pieces that I really like and I think match up well with Pitt here. That's a loss for me. But again, rivalry game. West Virginia's got really good pieces, and I have no doubt and I have no problem saying that I think West Virginia is the more talented team in this matchup. But this is a rivalry game. Pitt has it at home. They're going to play their hearts out here, and while you split your non-conference games in the more unlikely scenario, you get through non-conference play 3-1, because I also think you beat the Youngstown State Penguins, an FCS level team that honestly could fare out to be pretty well in 2024. I think Pitt just has a little bit too much talent for him as Youngstown State wins that game. So you go 3-1 through non-conference. Again, if you want to switch the Cincinnati, West Virginia games, I'm totally fine with that. And after non-conference, you get your first bye week before you have to go on the road and play the North Carolina Tar Heels. I got some bad news right here and maybe a little bit of a spoiler. I don't think ACC play is going to fare too well for all the Pitt fans out there. You got some really tough teams to play, including North Carolina, who, yes, I know lost Drake May. I know lost some really good defensive pieces, and there are going to be some questions surrounding this North Carolina program. Max Johnson enters at quarterback. He's a very experienced option, and he still has a lot of good weapons around him in the wide receiver room, and Omarion Hampton is coming back at running back. Some solid defensive pieces there, and with this being a road game here, I think Pitt's going to go on the road and drop that game. Yes, they get the extra week of preparation to prepare, but I don't think it's enough. I think North Carolina walks away with that win, and with some of the concerns that Pitt may have on their defensive front, even with how much talent they do have, Hampton could be due to have a big day, which is going to hurt Pitt in more ways than one. Cal is another team coming in here that, hey, look, watch out for the Cal Golden Bears here. Fernando Mendoza is the quarterback coming back to this program, likely going to get that starting job, although there are a couple other guys there battling for that job. Chandler Rogers, a former North Texas and ULM quarterback, being one of them. He's a pretty talented option, but Cal's got a lot of sneaky good weapons. They did really well in the transfer portal at wide receiver. The defense has some really good pieces, and I think Cal's going to put up a really good record in their first season as a member of the ACC. And even though this is the home game for Pitt, too many questions for me for the Panthers and too many things I like with Cal. That is a win in week 7. However, you get an extra week of preparation, and it is on a Thursday when you have to play the Syracuse Orange. I do think you get your first ACC win right here to put yourself back above 500. Syracuse is a team that overall I still like here in 2024, but I see this as a toss-up game. And Syracuse is going to have a couple games, especially in matchups where the other team can be a little bit more physical than what the Orange may bring. I think they're going to definitely see their struggles. Kyle McCord has got some really good pieces around him, the Ohio State transfer quarterback coming into Syracuse, Fran Brown's first year. Again, a team that I still like, but in a game that I am deciding here as a coin toss, I'll go with the team that has home field advantage, and that to me, well, and obviously due to fact, is the Pittsburgh Panthers. On the road against the SMU Mustangs, I think they're going to be a really good team in the ACC in their first year coming over from the American Athletic. Preston Stone is that quarterback, and if you haven't heard of him, I believe he's one of, if not the highest rated recruit that SMU has ever brought into that program, and he is fantastic. SMU is a team that in the skill position room always seems to have a lot of speed. They got a lot of speed on defense as well. They're going to be a tough matchup for a lot of these ACC teams they have to face, and going on the road, they're not a very easy place to play. Pitt wins, or I should say Pitt loses that game, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. See, they beat Virginia to reach one win shy of bowl eligibility. Now, look, Virginia's going to be a lot better than they were in 2023. They're going to be a lot better than they have been in seasons prior. They're going to be no pushover, and I think win their fair share of games this season. But Pitt, I think, is just going to be a little too physical. They have a little too many good rushing pieces. I think the secondary can step up as well, and Pitt will win that game. However, you got two really tricky road games here. In fact, you have to finish out with 3 straight road games. I don't believe that's correct. Let me fact check that. I sincerely apologize for that error, but yes, I was correct. They do get the Clemson Tigers at home here, and they actually finish up the season with 2 straight road games. Regardless of where that game is set, though, I think Pitt loses to the Clemson Tigers. They're going to have a really good defense this year. I expect Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley and this offense overall to take a step forward and Clemson will be one of the ACC's better sides this upcoming season, as will the Louisville Cardinals. Now, a lot of pieces from that team leave, but Louisville is one of the teams that hit it out of the park in the transfer portal, especially defensively. I mentioned, I believe, one video ago during my Texas Tech preview, Tyler Shuck is coming over there to play quarterback for that team, and if he can stay healthy, he's going to be a good quarterback for that team. That's a loss, so it all comes down to the matchup against Boston College, and you lose that one. I still like Thomas Castellanos at quarterback. Boston College has got some really good defensive pieces coming into this secondary, and they can make things really hard on Pitt here, and in a game that Boston College may itself also may need to get into a bowl game. I think you'll lose that one on the road, and Pitt has a 7-5 record in 2024. An improvement from last year, yes. Where Panther fans want to see this team, probably not. But people have underestimated Pat Narduzzi before, and I may be doing so right here. Let me know what you think about the Panthers in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and we'll dive in to the Maryland Terrapins up next. Goodbye.